So welcome to Unity South Central Region's Business Mastermind. I'm excited to connect with you guys today. I was just reminded that it's Easter week and some of you might be busy, just a little busy. So I hope that wherever you are, you're having an amazing time. And I appreciate you two ladies popping in on such a busy week. I know you've got a lot of other things you could be doing. This is a subject that I'm passionate about. I think it's an important subject. We're going to talk about generations today. We're going to talk about the generations that exist within your congregation, and we're going to talk about how they differ and how they're the same, and a little bit about what attracts them and what is important to them, so that you can think a little bit about the makeup of your congregation and what you can do to grow various ends of your congregation, and also to notice if there's a piece of your congregation missing, and a piece of the community missing that maybe you're not attracting for some reason. So as we go through this, I'm going to tell you there's a lot of information, and I'm going to invite you to come back to this recording because otherwise you're going to be so busy taking notes that you will miss the next part. So I'm going to invite you to just know that this is recorded and take the notes that you need to take to keep things fresh in your mind. I know sometimes for me, I have to write things down just to kind of, something happens, my ears are sometimes not enough. It has to travel. The information has to travel up my arm or something to get fully seated in my brain. So, I don't want you to feel like you can't take notes, but do give this your attention. And Elaine in our office is great about getting this video back up really quickly, so you can come back to it next week when Easter is over and you have a little time, and give it a little more thought. Or if you have some questions, you can answer those questions. And I am in a different place than I usually am, so I'm a little pointed down because I'm sitting at a countertop. So sorry about that weird angle, but it's just the nature of the beast today. All right, let's see if we can you guys see that? Yes. All right, let's jump over here. There we go. That looks like it's supposed to. So we're talking about generations today, and we have 5 generations actively. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations that we're actively involved in. The 5 adult generations are what we'll be talking about. We'll touch a little bit on Gen Alpha just for a minute. They are 0 to about 14 right now, and they are the youngest generation that we're tracking. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, just to touch on what's affecting them. But mostly we're going to focus on the adult generations and what they need from you and how they interact in your community, what kinds of things motivate them, and why that's important. So we are growing in the presence of one another. And one of the things that I feel like I probably don't need to spend a lot of time on, but just want to touch, is that having a multi-generational congregation is incredibly important, because it mimics the world outside. It allows people who maybe don't have younger people in their lives, especially some of our older members, to interact with younger members and feel a little bit more up to speed with what's going on in the world, and not feel quite so isolated or quite so out of touch. It allows the younger generations to learn and grow and understand the kind of wisdom that is brought to us by our older generations, the wisdom of experience, and also to find ways to safely experiment in communicating with people who think differently and have different life experience. So it's important for us to give time to the generational breakdown of our community, and to look at both how we bring them all together and equally how we serve them as individual units, because some of their needs are really different, and it will be difficult to serve those needs always when they're all together. So just a little bit to think about. Also, I want to, as we do this information can feel really linear, kind of where we start at this age and we move through life. It can feel kind of linear, but what I want you to remember is that church communities are circular. They're not linear. We don't do things in a linear way. Even when we choose a topic and we talk about it for 6 weeks, we're constantly circling back around to what we said before or what we're going to say a week from now. There's constant circular motion in a congregation, and that is a very healthy way to be. It's very healthy to not leave the past behind and be incorporating what's happening in the future. And this work specifically, because it deals with people who have a long past and people who have a short past, people who have a long future and people who have a short future. Because of that, we're constantly circling through these generations in order to do what they need to make our work relevant to their specific place in time. So communities are now spanning 6 living generations. This is a really big deal. This is what happens because people live longer today. 6 living generations from the silent generation, which is the generation that is the oldest and probably one of the most prevalent in your community, all the way down to Gen Alpha, which is everybody who is participating in your children's program. Old ministry models that look at things in a linear way don't work the same way because there are so many places and cycles and ways. So we've talked about the fact that things move spirally. They're not ladders. People don't, and life is like that too. Part of what we want to teach is that we don't climb the ladder till we get old. Oh, now I know more. Now I can do more. We don't do that anymore. Our young people are so exposed to information and dealing with so many new ways of doing things that we don't necessarily have, that we're learning equally from both ends of the spectrum. We are learning as much from our young people who are globally aware in very new and unique ways as we are learning from the older members of our community. And those people in the middle of all of that are teaching us how you balance all of those things. So every generation that we're interacting with has something unique to share in our community. And part of our objective is to figure out how we bring that to the surface, how we, in our speaking, in our educating, in our community events, how we point out the benefits of people of many different ages and the gifts that they bring. So really important for us to check our own assumptions, because in some ways, the world we thought we were living in, even a few years ago, is not the world we live in today. We live in a very different world today. And if we stay stuck in our assumptions that we're living in the same world and doing things the same way, we will lose people on both ends and some from the middle. So it's really important to pay attention to how life is changing and whether or not your community is staying up on that and is in interaction around it, is actually in conversation, because we don't know how to do it. It's not like we know how to do what we're doing right now. We haven't done it in our lifetime. We have not lived in such a possibility of a world war. We have not lived in such an intense climate shifting time, whether no matter how you think we got here, our climates are really different. We haven't lived with the kind of polarization that we have right now. And we haven't lived with this many living generations with different backgrounds and different ideas. So all of that plays into what we're talking about today. So I want to just run through these 5 generations because these are your adult generations. And I want to talk a little bit about each one of them. So the silent generation was born from 1928 to 1945. They are 81 to 89 years old. And I'm certain that when I say that age, there are people in your congregation that come right to mind. Like, you can probably pull out who those people are. it's surprising to me to look at all of these. Every time I look at generations, I'm shocked to realize, oh my gosh, that generation has gotten much older than it was when I first started talking about it. But they are in their 80s right now, and they are the generation that was born either during or just coming out of the Great Depression. They actually experienced World War II. They have lived for a really long time, and because they're shaped by lack and scarcity, because they are shaped by fear and a true threat, there are some things that are really important to them. Loyalty is really important to them. They're very loyal and they expect loyalty. Duty. This is the generation of duty. And 10 years ago, when they were in their late 60s and into their 70s, they were our hardworking board members. They were the people who were doing all kinds of things in their church because duty and commitment is really important to them. Now they're in their 80s and it's starting to be hard, and we're really missing them. We're missing the positions that they filled and finding those positions harder to fill. What is important to them is respect. They've worked their whole lifetime for respect, and respect that is based on hard work. These are the people that will say to the younger generations, you just have to work hard and you can have anything you want. If you just work hard, you can make it happen, which unfortunately is not true in today's world. You can work really hard and not have what you want. But they came out of that way of thinking, and they're not afraid of hard work. In fact, a lot of them are struggling right now because they can't figure out how to do the hard work that has given them value in their lifetime. And they are in your congregation needing to understand that they have already given, that they are part of the foundation of who you are. That over the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, however long they've been part of your community, that they have been active contributors. And there's a need for us in our languaging to honor those people who have moved beyond the very intense, labor intensive ways of doing things. Because a lot of these people, and you'll see this with your men, they're the guys that'll go, yeah, I'll get up on the roof and check out whether we have a leak or not. You do not want your 80, 85-year-olds up on the roof. That's not a good place for them. But they feel like it's their duty to jump in when something is broken, when there's something they're supposed to help with, and they're not ready to give that up. So finding language for them that says there are other ways to give. One of the things that I really say often and encourage ministers to say is one of the most important things you can do for this congregation is pray for it, is to hold active prayer space each day. If you take 5 minutes and settle down into your quiet time and you offer a prayer for this congregation, for all the things that are true here, for the special needs of the people who are here, for our board and the work that the board is doing, for our staff and the work that they're doing, that being in prayer is something that this generation can do well, and they know how. They know how to pray. They grew up praying. When they were children, they prayed in the very traditional way, and they feel comfortable praying in a way that the next generations are less comfortable. So it's one of the things that you can do. And because they are duty bound, if they decide to do it, they actually will really do it. They won't say, yes, I'm praying for you, and never close their eyes and say a prayer. They will actually pray. It's a really good way of bringing them into the fold in terms of service, and to refer to them genuinely as the elders they are. That our elders carry a lot of wisdom. And if you're one of the younger generations and you're looking for life wisdom, we have some wisdom in this room. Let us know how we can connect you or what you're working on, and we'll try and connect you with people who can offer some of that wisdom up. Those things really matter to that generation. They also are really looking at mortality. It's right in their face. And they want us to be able to talk about it in a real way, not in a light way, but to really talk about mortality in a way that feels true and real, because for them, it's right in front of them. And they don't want to hear it as yes, someday we will, but none of us know how much time we have here. We want to use our time well. And we also want to think about when we leave here, how comfortably we'll leave our body, how easily we'll move into the next space, whether or not we believe whatever we believe about what comes after this, and what is important for us to complete in this time. All of that is conversation that the silent generation needs. The boomer generation was born from 1946 to 1964. Many of us who are in ministry now fall into that generation. Not all of us, but a lot of us. We are between the ages of 62 and 80, which just shocks the heck out of me. I don't know how that happened, how we got so old, but we are. We had a very different set of circumstances that we grew up in. We are children of Vietnam. We are children of the civil rights movement. We are children, women specifically, who were affected by feminism and all the changes in our lifetime. The women in our lifetime didn't get the right to own their own credit card until 1975. A lot of things happened for women during this generation. Hi, Dava, nice to see you. A lot of things happened for our boomers that shaped who they are. This was the sexual revolution. This was a time of independence, a time of individuality, really strong individuality, and a time when women really came into themselves. And all of that affects who they are. They are also such a massive size group. They are the everything I ever did is in a certificate on my wall group. They have the proud of me wall behind them when they meet. And there's a really good reason for that. And it's not ego. They have the look, I really did what I said I did wall, because they're the generation that has had to compete for everything, because how they got their jobs, how they advanced, how they did things was to compete, because there were so many of them. There are so many boomers. And right now it's affecting Gen X and millennials and Gen Z, because a lot of boomers are not leaving their workforce field. So the positions that were open for the younger generations to move into are not moving. They're not emptying as quickly. And that is affecting everything in our culture. So they are working in an older age, a lot of them. They are very oriented towards purpose and competition. They are idealistic. They taught their kids what their parents taught them, that if you work hard enough, you can have what you want. They believe that. And they believe in hard work, because to get along in the world with all the competition, they had to work hard. And so these are a lot of your board members, a lot of your leaders in the community, and they want respect in a different way, because they're looking for the respect that comes from being held out above their peers. And again, this is not an ego thing. It's there are so many of us, how will anybody ever see me thing. They are the people that need to be individually thanked. They need you to say to them one-to-one rather than to the whole group, I really appreciate how you contribute. And they need that to be authentic. They need you to really speak to, I love that you did this and here's what the result was. It's very important to them to be seen and recognized. They won't take it. They're not different than millennials, who really will respond well. They'll brush it off. Thank you. I'm just doing what I have to do. But it matters to them and it's important. They need relevance when we're teaching and moving through the world. They need relevance. It needs to be relevant to where they are. And they are in a page in a part of life where they're really experiencing the physical changes in their body. not being able to move as easily. Having a chair yoga class, having a gentle movement class, having a legacy oriented class, how will you leave your legacy, is really important to that group, because that's what they're struggling with. They're trying to figure out what is my legacy in the world? What am I actually doing to contribute in the world? Gen X is that's we all know Gen X as the latchkey kids. And they were. They were the latchkey kids. They also were the kids that didn't get as much attention as the ones that came before them, because both parents were working. And when the parents came home, they had things to do. They had laundry and grocery shopping and going through the mail and all the other things besides being with their kids. There, there is a high level of independence amongst Gen X. They don't want to have to explain to you how they feel about everything, because they have a much deeper level of privacy and care for themselves. And they easily feel like you're prying into their life much more than the older generations do, because they were by themselves a lot. And they have a way of moving through their processes individually. So when you teach them, different than the older generations who you might say, a group circle can be really good for this. Gen X does well with individual programs, things that they can do for themselves. Whether they don't read as much as the older generations, they will still read, but not as much. But if you do a video series and you give them 4 or 5 videos they can watch, or something they can listen to in the car, a podcast or something that teaches that they can listen to, they'll jump right on that because it suits their lifestyle. And they still, many of them, they are 46 to 61. Most of those people who have families are raising, their families are now in middle school, high school, or college. And a lot of them are starting to deal with adult children. So how do we help empty nesters? How do we help people who are transitioning from their purpose in life being their kids to what they recover when they get on the other side of having children? Those are the kinds of classes that are important to them. They are not fluffy. All the rest of the generations are pretty good with our fluffiness. Gen X and Gen Z, they are not. Gen Z is really pragmatic. We'll get to that. Gen X is, don't waste my time. I have things to do. Tell me something important. They really appreciate science. They really appreciate intellectual conversation. And that's important to know. Also, they want to know why and how and what made you come to that. And don't waste my time telling me something if you haven't done your homework. So when you look at quantum physics, involving quantum physics in your teaching and things like that, it's usually our Gen Xers who get really excited about quantum physics because it suits the way their brain works. Then we move to our millennials, and our millennials were born from 1981 to 1996. For some of us, they're our children. They are the kids that were told that they could do anything they wanted if they worked hard, but it isn't what was true for them. When they finally got out into the world, that wasn't true. So they feel a little betrayed by their parents and a little betrayed by life, because how come if I work so hard, it doesn't work so well for me? They don't hold a job. They don't stay in one job very long. Because there's no motivation for them to do that. They are the kids of 9/11. They're the kids of the 2008 financial collapse. They are the kids for whom they came into social media. They lived into the time that social media became a thing. And so they've had a lot of interesting stuff in life. 9/11 was, oh, our country can actually be hit. That was a big deal for them. The financial collapse was watching their parents' financial abilities go away, and seeing how that affected their parents and their grandparents and giving them much less sense of security. They need safety. The most important things for millennials is that they want to feel safe, which is really critical right now because, it's a good time to bring them into our congregations because they are looking for a safety in a world that does not feel safe right now. And so our ability to talk about and teach to what it is to create inner safety. What is safety really? How do we hold a sense of safety when the world doesn't seem safe? Who makes you feel safe? How do you resource safety? What music makes you feel safe? What shows do you watch that make you feel safe and which ones don't? How do you curate your social media so that you get on your social media what you want instead of all the stuff that makes you feel unsafe? When they feel safe, they can explore their life a little bit more. They are a really good match for boomers because they look for mentors who have kind words for them and who appreciate them. They grew up in the time when we gave awards for everything because we couldn't stand to have anybody have their feelings hurt. And it's really easy to understand that when you know that the boomers were this big generation who felt left out, like who are always fighting to be seen because there were so many of them. So when they deal with the millennials, they have a sense of, I want to make you be seen because we weren't seen very well. So I want to make you seen. They are the children of Gen X. And Gen X is really independent and is like, go do your thing. You're good. Go, go do something. So matching your boomers and your millennials and finding things that they can both attend is really good because the millennials tend to be really supportive. The boomers tend to be really supportive of the millennials, and especially if you get the chance to say that to them. Our younger people, you don't have to call them millennials because sometimes that hurts their feelings. But our younger people between 30 and 45, they could use your support, even if all you do is encourage them because they are at a very special time of life that we remember when you're trying to figure out how you're going to have a house, how you're going to raise a family, what your real career is. We get to 30 and we're like, I'm supposed to have a career now. They need advice from the older generations to say, the world is different right now, and it's not so easy to find a steady career. You may have to jump from job to job to get a raise because we don't do a lot of giving raises in the workforce right now. We don't give a lot of benefits. We don't have pensions. So they have to think about their job field differently. If you are employing millennials, remember that they are facing a very different world than us, that they're starting to think about their future. And it will be important for you to talk about whether there is a future for them and what that future might look like. We don't have a lot of upward mobility in most of our jobs. And so if you don't have upward mobility and you have millennials working for you, you can count on them for about 2 years. And then they're going to look for upward mobility. And you just need to know that about them. It's not a fault in their generation. It's a circumstance of the time they live in. And you'll hear this in the business world. People are very frustrated with millennials because they just get them trained and ready and they lose them because it takes a year or two to get somebody really on board and really understanding. There's a reason for that. And if you want to keep your millennials, you have to think of upward mobility and you have to think about how you can expand what they're learning and what you can do for them pay-wise so that they feel like they're getting somewhere because they really need that. That particular generation really needs to feel like they're getting somewhere. They are all about authenticity and meaning. What I do needs to change the world around me. They want your business, your church business, to change the world. So they are really, really prime for being involved in your outreach programs, in your nonprofit outreach programs, in your community justice programs, anything like that you're doing. Your millennials will be, even whether they get involved or not, will be stronger members and more apt to stay belonging if they can say, my spiritual center is doing something in the world. So it's valuable to look at what you're doing. And then you move to Gen Z. And Gen Z was born between 1997 and 2012. They are 14 to 29 years old. They are your college students. They are very like the millennials in that they want the world to have meaning, and they are digital natives, so they are globally aware. They are kids who grew up with genocide. They grew up in a polarized world. They grew up as digital natives. Their world is really, really different than your silent generation or your boomer generation. They are very pragmatic. They are very pragmatic. Their parents are millennials in the young end of Gen Z. So their parents, their millennial parents are touchy and almost a little bit needy because they're used to their millennial parents want to be told they're great parents. And the Gen Z is like, yeah, 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 you're great parents, that's your job. I'm doing something here. I'm doing something in the world. The world needs me. And so they're again a lot more black and white and pragmatic. And if you look at just these five, you'll go silent generation, duty and loyalty, boomers, much more about belonging, community, connectedness. Gen Z, hey, the boomers are like, we're all together in this. Gen Z is like, we're all alone in this. We're all separate. Millennials are like, we really want to be all together in this. Gen Z is like, come on, you guys, we have things to do. Let's stop talking about whether we're together or not and just do it. So these generations you can see are dramatically different. And if we look at the upcoming generation, the generation that comes after that, which is called Gen Alpha, those are our kids. And we don't know everything that will affect them, but we know that climate change is a big deal in their lives because they're, again, global kids. Social media and AI will be very big influences on them. This time that we're going through so much change and polarization, when we don't trust any of our institutions, that's going to really affect them. They are likely to become very detail oriented and very oriented towards things being done right and pursuit of truth because we can't find it right now. So they are likely to move in that generation. So in your congregation, you likely have 6 different generations and are probably mostly addressing these 5 as your adults and then working with your adult leaders to work with your Gen Alphas. Every generation bears wisdom. They all have something. The elder generation carries memory. The younger generation carries vision. Those things really need to go together. I remember we did a program that had a figure 8 in it. And in the figure 8, on one side was the word tradition, and in the other side was the word evolution. And whoever was teaching it for Unity was teaching that we have to move between tradition and evolution. That's really what we're doing with these generations. We're moving them between wisdom and knowledge and experience and evolution and innovation and imagination. So tying that energetically together is a really important thing in what we do. And there are things that are really important to each of those generations. Some of these are true for all of them. This particular list in particular, they all care about belonging. In a world that doesn't feel safe, belonging really matters. They all care about relevance. If there is a school shooting and you didn't take a moment of silence for it, it will be missed by your congregation because right now they care about relevance. You may not choose a political side, but that you talk about polarization and make room for that to be part of your conversation is important. It's relevant to their life, and they're coming to church to feel like there's a safe place to be with their feelings about all of that. So all of them care about relevance at different levels according to what's going on in their life. The oldest generations, the tail end of the boomers and your silent generation, they do not go as deep as all the generations after them. And they're likely to say, how come you guys go so deep on all of this stuff? Let's just have some fun for a couple of reasons. One, it's true for them. They didn't go deep to get loyalty and duty. They did that because of their circumstances, because there was scarcity and there was fear. And also because they're on the tail end of life and they're starting to think about mortality, and they're less worried about going deep and more worried about having fun and quality of life and having experience before experience is gone. All of them, all of our congregations are focused on authenticity right now because we don't trust any of our organizations. We don't trust our police, our government, our hospitals, our judicial system. We don't trust any of that. And they don't really know whether they can trust spiritual organizations either. So authenticity is really important. And that means being able to say, I don't know about that yet. I'm still living in my own questions around this thing, and I don't have all the answers to that. That kind of authenticity, even though it doesn't give them easy answers, feels safer than being told that being given a spiritual bypass for something that really doesn't help them. Flexibility is important to these generations that we serve because the world that we live in requires us to teach them flexibility. There's so much changing. We really need to be teaching about change and how to be flexible and malleable with all the changes, and the difference between being flexible about your values or not, right? Your values may change. They may need to hold strong too. Their needs differ around delivery, format, pace, and cultural framing. So if you're talking about the Great Depression, it's not a relatable subject to your Gen Zs or your Gen Xs. They don't, that's so far away from them. That your boomers can relate to that because they have parents and grandparents who touched it. But the things that the kind of references that need to be worked into your teachings need to hit the various generations, and you do that by thinking about what is shaping them, what has shaped them. And also so those are areas that they converge, that they differ. They converge around love, meaning, community, truth, belonging, authenticity. Those things are really, really important to them. Belonging is one of the most important things to get across to all the generations. That's the thing that brings them back each week. These are my family, my friends, my people, my community, my ways of believing. These people care about me. That's really important because the world is frightening and the world is disturbing, and there's a lot of rejection in the world right now. And if you don't believe the right way and do the right things and say the right things, you don't belong with certain groups, no matter who that group is. So all of that is certainly as important and likely more important than it's ever been. The danger of designing for one, which happens really easily because a lot of our congregations mostly meet boomers and the silent generation. The danger of that is that you don't even know that you're doing it. It's hidden in your music. It's hidden in your language. It's the way you've always done things. And it's not really meeting the needs of the younger generation. And you'll see that because younger people will come in for a couple of weeks and then they'll leave because they're really not quite getting what they need. You have to look at your imagery, your way of doing things, and see if it crosses the spectrum or if it mostly meets one or two generations. And yes, it's true that you might have only one or two generations that are expressing in your community, but if you don't address the needs of younger generations, you're not going to get them. They need to feel as welcome. Another way to look at this is what do they see when they look at your community? How many people work for you and what ages are they? Are they coming in and only seeing people in a certain age group? Do you hire people who are all boomers because you're a boomer? You won't do it with intention, but those people have the same things in common with you. Are you hiring younger people in? Is your culture diverse? What are they seeing on your platform when they come in? Do you have young people singing? Do young people speaking? Who are you bringing in as guest speakers? How are you bringing the young end into action in your community? So if you think about your own community, you don't have to answer this out loud, but just consider who feels the most at home. Which of those generations feels the most at home? And who might feel like they're on the edges when they come? And think about what generation shaped the culture of your community. The Unity in the Rockies, for example, which is the last community I was serving, was definitely shaped by the silent generation. They're 103 years old. They were shaped by the generation that came before them and that generation. When was your church born? Who shaped the culture? And has the culture evolved or stayed stuck there? Whose voice has been the quietest? Who actually has not been asked, what should we do differently? How could we make this better for you? Likely it's your younger generations. These truths will land differently. Relevance will land differently, for example, across generations. Authenticity will land differently. Safety will land differently. But those areas need to be covered for everyone. Boomers will respond to institutional language where Gen Z likes things to be a personal narrative. What that means is because boomers are a great big group, this needs to be important to this whole group I'm part of. Look how big we are. And Gen Z is like, I don't care about everybody else. They do care, but their way of processing information is very personal because they spend a lot of time alone. So it's an interesting thing to try and meet those two generations, which are probably the two that have the most presence and growth in your community, to be speaking in both ways. How does this matter to us as a community, and how does it matter to you personally? Why am I teaching this? And how does it suit both of these needs? Collaborative framework we talked about. The silent generation, they're the ones that want structure. They want it done the same way every year. This is how we do it. This is why. I want to understand that. I want it to be reliable. You have a duty to do it the way it's always been done, right? So helping them to understand the way other people think is valuable because they really do want to be part of the bigger community, but they don't necessarily know what those other generations need from them. There are lots of ways to do this. You can address these different generations through story, through times of silence. The pictures that you use, the people that are in your pictures. I use this is a collage I made, a magazine collage, because it has lots of different pieces in it. Your imaging can hit lots of different levels of understanding. From, in this picture, you have statues and structure, and you have the lady from Wakanda, which is, a wonderful like hero picture, and still imagination and whimsy. And that little boat down there is just that feel of real life, like there's something real. When you think about your imaging, what parts of your imaging attract different people? Generally, when we create PowerPoints or slides or anything like that, at least for me, I create them kind of in the same pattern. You want to think about those pictures that you're using and who's shown in them and what's shown in them and whether it's relevant across 5 generations rather than 1 or 2. Your practices and your inquiry is the most effective tool that you have for making sure all of your generation's needs are addressed. And that means that you're in conversation with people from all of those generations and asking them, how are you experiencing our community? Doing a little survey and trying to make sure I understand the needs of all these generations. And it is a mastery of translation to take a concept and speak it across those generational plateaus, because they really speak in different ways. So it's about mastery of translation and thinking about the perspectives of the different groups that you serve. And that's a lot. And our job is a lot. The truth is, our job is a lot. We're serving 6 generations. It's just a real thing for us to recognize that if we want to grow the younger end, we have to serve the older end and speak to the younger end. Otherwise, people will come in, try it out, and leave. And we don't have a long future if we do it that way. So it's really important to understand their motivations. And that's why I said to you, you may want to come back and look at this. Listen to your music. Is your music contemporary? You're going to have some hymns, some older contemporary, some classic new thought music, but are you having music that is the kind of music that your younger people will enjoy as well? Take a look at it. Embodied practices across generational lines work more readily than words. That means you're thinking about ritual and ceremony, about the simple things that you can do that have touchstones and are felt in the body, that are not just words, because the younger generations do not respond as well to talking heads. So we want ways that they feel touched, that their body is involved, that whether they get up and shake, or you have them walk around the room, or you have them, go hug somebody, get them doing something, because they want to feel it. Those younger generations from Gen X down, they want to feel like it's personal. It's about them. And it's going to be really important for you to weave stories that are personal narratives from your generation and speak about how your generation differs from other generations. When I grew up, these things were important. I think of things through this lens. When our younger people grew up, they were dealing with other stuff. And they think differently, because we have to educate people about how these generations work so that we can cross-pollinate. Because most people don't know this. They just go, oh, those darn millennials. Ding, Gen Z. They're so independent. It's really interesting to see how we judge our age groups rather than get to know them. Anytime you can do intergenerational work and actually put something on the platform from each generation, have generations give input on a particular subject. Anytime you can do that intergenerational service, it's beneficial for learning. And anytime you can create space that welcomes from the youngest age to the oldest age. Because our world, as much as we can define it in separate pieces, is one world. And there aren't very many environments where all these generations actually can get together. So being able to put them in one place is important. We have to move beyond senior circle, youth groups, all of our silos, and move into multi-generational wisdom circles, and really teach to the fact that every generation has wisdom to add so that they can learn from each other. And consider, as you do your programs, what programs will this apply to? And some of them will be programs that you do alone. For if you are a young parent, or you are, let's say you're a millennial and your kids are starting to go off to college and you're starting to think about empty nest and college bills and all of that stuff, your kids are in high school, your needs for a class are different than the needs of boomers right now, who are moving quickly towards being that last generation and trying to help them move out of their sense of worth being tied to their jobs. Those are different messages. So some classes need to be taught for particular age range. Anybody can be invited, but you need to know who you're aiming at when you offer different classes. And it's important to have conversation. Social justice issues, even though we're not going out and engaged in social justice work nearly so much, except for you, Jackie, but even though we don't do as much of it in our communities, they're doing it. And how are they talking? And is there an opportunity for them to talk from the oldest generation to the youngest generation about how they see the world and what's important? and how quickly things are changing, the pace of change that they're facing. These are tensions, they're frictions, they're not problems. When you have friction, when friction happens, things soften. We don't think that. It starts out really hard, but when you rub two things together and there's friction, they eventually soften into each other and start to blend. There is friction. That's not a bad thing. If it doesn't get addressed, it can become fire, can become a place where there isn't conversation. So talking through it means that you're part of a living community that is really living and serving all of the world, and you are the bridge for that. So your job isn't so much to mediate as it is to create space for difference. It's important for you to look at your own generational lens. How much does your church reflect you? What you understand about life, how you do things, what your music is, who's there, how much of that reflects you? It can be a really good thing in lots of ways. And is there a reflection of anything else? Is there somebody young at the front desk? Is there somebody young on the platform? Do you have diversity in your community? All of that is stuff for you to look at. It's not about being neutral, it's about being aware. And this whole study of generational impact is about raising the quality of what we do as ministers. This is a highly technical part of our job that we don't get a lot of training in. And it's incredibly important to the future of unity that we understand the generational lenses that are looking at what we do and determining whether they'll participate or not. So it's not that you need to shed your own generation. You just have to hold it light enough for new generations to be part of it. It's important to do your own generational inventory. When you do a survey, look at that survey. What age group are your people? Make them answer that question. So you know, because not everybody who is in the church on Sunday morning that's not your whole congregation. You have lots of people who are watching online and participating in other things. So who's really there? What's your language? Go back and look at your language. Look at a couple of your own sermons. I know we all hate to see ourselves recorded, but if you've got them, go back and look and ask yourself, am I speaking across generations or am I speaking really from my own perspective? That personal story is valuable, but speaking across generations in the way of relevance really matters. Who's on your stage? Who's in your leadership? How often do you listen to the people who are not of your generation? And really across your activities, how much opportunity is there for the younger end of your spectrum to participate in the shaping of your community? Really, really is a valuable and important question. So this is what I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with these questions. Sorry, I've got something popping up on my screen. Who in your community feels unseen right now when it comes to their impact on your community? What age are they? What is one concrete change in language, programming, worship, or leadership that would begin to change that? What's one concrete change you could make for that particular group? And we're just a small group. I want to honor your time. We're right at the top of the hour right now, but I want to invite you just, if any of you want to speak to that, to just speak to that quickly. Who is in your community is feeling unseen right now?
I would say the silent generation, because we are making some pretty significant changes toward a service that speaks to my generation, which is X and below. So this has been really insightful. I can see them. I mean, what you've said about them is like, don't forget about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are really important in their life right now,
Yeah.
right? They're going through a lot right now. That it's their whole world, all the systems, when you think about duty and structure, all the systems that they worked really hard to put in place are all being broken down.
Right.
And their world feels very unfamiliar right now. And safe space to talk about that, even if they can't change it, could be really helpful.
Yeah. Thank you. So you're so brilliant. Everything you bring, I love it so much. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Ladies, either of you want to speak to that question? Okay. Jackie, you have a really diverse, you of all the churches that I visit, Jackie, you have one of the most diverse in age group. So I know that you're really working in this area. All right, friends, I so appreciate my time with you and our ability to do this work together. And like I said, this is one of those that I encourage you to watch again, because once you actually really understand the motivating factors underneath these generations and what they're feeling from how they grew up, what was important to them, it helps you to do a better job of meeting their needs, even just in your own languaging, and to also appreciate in moments of conflict why this is so important to them and they can't let go of it, because it's so key to what formulated them, what made them who they are. And so I invite you, I know that Elaine will get this put back up or put up on the website in the archives probably in the next 24 hours. And I encourage you to go back when you have time, even if it's 6 months from now, and revisit it. And I just love you so much. We will not meet the middle of this month because my son is graduating from college in Ireland on the day we're supposed to meet. And I'm going there. So we will not have a middle of the month meeting, which means that I will see you guys again on the 1st of May. Wow, that's
I
crazy.
would love to have some conversation on this if there's a way to fit it in. I just had
Yeah.
invited one of my assistant ministers to whose primary marching orders are to the relational aspect of the community, and I had invited her to this and to the discussion group. So I'd
Would
love to
you
circle
guys
back.
would you guys like to do this the last? I'll be back on the 22nd. I could do it the last Wednesday of the month. Do you want to check
I'd
your
be in.
calendar and see if that works?
So, oh, and there's 5 Wednesdays this month.
Cool. What's the one
So
after
do
the
you mean the
22nd?
22nd or the 29th?
I get back on the 22nd, so it'd be the
The
29th.
29th?
Yep.
Would love it.
All right, let's do that.
I'll be out of town, but do it. I'll watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be at an echocardiogram, but I'll watch the video.
All right. Well, it might be Jackie and I, it might be somebody else. I'll have the region send out a note about it and we'll talk about it then. All right.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you so
Thank
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You're welcome. I
you.
love you. See you
Love
soon.
you too. Bye-bye.